So, as a bit of light relief, let's have a look at some of the things you have to remember for doing your question 3 on paper 2 and your question 2 on paper 1, which is the language question. And also, you should be having a think about when you're doing your pieces of writing. And that is to put in these ideas of using imagery in your writing. So, imagery, which is about creating effects for the reader, like things to do with the senses, maybe sight, hearing, touch, smell, taste. The idea of bringing to life a description. Remember that the examiners like, just bring Mavis back in.
Bye, Archie.
Hello. Are you there,
Hey.
Mavis? Hello, you're back in. Right.
Let's be then. Sorry.
I can tell you, Mavis, that I have managed to unblock your pieces of writing, and so I have been able to. You when you sent me your homework, I can now see it. So that's panic over. I have to click something to unblock it when it comes through. So that's great. We're looking at metaphor and simile right now, and the idea of using imagery. Is that gone? Here we are. So we don't have to worry too much about definitions. It's more about actually using and understanding these ways of writing and using language. So one of the key ways that you can create images in the reader's mind is to use metaphor or simile. Now, can anybody tell me, what does metaphor and simile have in common? What do they both do?
Both of them are comparison.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, well done. Yeah, they are comparisons. You're comparing the object that you are describing, and it could be a person, it could be a place, it could be a thing. But whatever it is you're comparing it to something else in order to bring some kind of flavor from the other thing, the comparative thing that you've used. So to say that, I can't think of a single. Oh, yeah, we have got some examples here. So if we talk about love is beautiful, or or love grows. The idea there is about describing love as if it were maybe like a flower or a plant. This idea that love is a rose. And as an image, that works because the rose is alive. The rose grows in your garden. A rose is beautiful. A rose can hurt you because it's got thorns. And all of those things goes along with the idea of love as well. So there are certain elements of the rose that love can be like, that can be compared to. Now, obviously, there are other things that you can't compare a rose to love. Love doesn't need to be watered every day. Love doesn't get green fly. That all seems very silly, but just simply using the comparison doesn't mean that all the elements of the thing you're comparing to apply to your original object. It's only the ones that the writer wants you to think about. So you'll need a certain amount of extra explanation usually to make the metaphor work. What's different about metaphors and similes? What's the difference between them? They both create comparisons, but they do it in different ways. What's the difference?
I think simile comparison uses as. I think simile uses like and as, but metaphor uses the verb to be.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go on. Somebody else want to expand on that? I think Sam is very up on similes and metaphors tonight. That's good. Yeah, I mean, a metaphor is a
Metaphors are more imagination.
yeah. They're more sophisticated. They have broader appeal to the imagination. Yes, absolutely. Similes tend to be quite straightforward. You know, the night was as dark as a coal cellar or whatever. Whereas metaphors can actually be much more extended. They can be much more complicated, or they can be very straightforward. But you're basically saying that the object is the thing you're comparing it to. So love is a rose is a metaphor. It's not saying it's like a rose. You're saying it is a rose. Now, clearly, that's a lie in some respects, isn't it? Love isn't a rose. But to make that statement, love is a rose, brings with it or some of the aspects of roses to the idea of the abstract emotional state of love. It doesn't always work, and writers have to be very careful with it. So let's have a look at these examples of metaphors. Now, these are some famous ones. Men's words are bullets that their enemies take up and make use of against them. Men's words are bullets that their enemies take up and make use of against them. Now, if you were going to explain that in an exam, that's your question 3 on paper 2 or question 2 on paper 1. You're doing the language question. You've got a lovely metaphor there. What exactly is George Savile saying about words that means that we can use this comparison with bullets? How does that comparison work? That's the bit that gets your head scratching. It's easy to say something is a metaphor, but that's definitely not where it stops. You have to try and unpick it and say what he is talking about. So what does he mean by enemies take up these bullets and make use of against them?
Takes up means reshape these words to use against you.
Yes, the literal meaning is you take somebody has said something, it's written down somewhere or recorded, and now because you actually use words, your enemies, if they want to, they could quote what you've said, they could take what you said, turn it around, use it against somebody, oh, you said this 10 years ago, or twist them a bit and make it so that it sounds like they said something they didn't. That's kind of what it's getting at. You throw words out into the public and you don't know if they're going to come back and bite you. They're going to be used to attack you. It's particularly true of politicians and people who are in the public, that whatever they have to be incredibly careful about what they say, because anything they say could eventually one day be used against them. But that is what it means. That isn't how the metaphor works. Why bullets? And if you imagine a battle and people are, running about, and you've lost some bullets out of your bag or whatever on the floor, the enemies come along and pick them up. They can put those same bullets into their own guns and fire them back at you. That's where this comes from. It's from the days when bullets weren't complicated objects. They were just little balls made of lead. Your enemies would fire them at you, but you could actually pick those bullets up, put them in your rifle and fire them back. So it's not like modern day bullets. It's old time sort of late 18th, early 19th century bullets from like the French Revolution or whatever. Literally, if there had been a battle going on, you could just stoop down, pick up some of the bullets, put them in your gun and fire them back at your enemy. So you shoot out a word like a bullet from a gun. Your enemy can pick that bullet up, put it in his own gun and fire it back at you. That's how the image works there. And because it is using the language of war and enemies and bullets, it's actually showing here it's this idea that your words could be turned against you as weapons. They could be used to hurt you or damage you. You following? It's not an easy one because it uses a kind of a historical image. Let's try a slightly different one. Let's try "The Rain Came Down in Long Knitting Needles" by from National Velvet. The rain came down in long knitting needles. That's a visual image. How, in what sense can rain become long knitting needles? Imagine knitting needles falling from the sky. Can rain be like that?
It means that it might be painful.
There are certain types of rainfall that can hurt, can't they? But it's so
something sharp.
Yeah, it's a sharp image, isn't it? And it's when the rain is falling so fast and so thin that if you were out in it, you would feel it hitting you. Yeah. And definitely you'd want to get out of the rain, because if it really were knitting needles falling in those long kind of streams of water that look so that look elongated, it's definitely an image that suggests pain and danger, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it says something about the rain, which is a little bit original. It's better than saying the rain came down hard or the rain came down quickly. It's indicating that peculiar kind of rain that comes so fast it actually hurts.
Sorry, Graham. I'm having problem with my
Yes, I can.
My mic on my PC. That's
Right.
why I've joined with my phone now, because if I want
Okay,
to talk,
now we can hear you.
yeah, I want to talk, you can't hear me. So I don't know.
That must be that's frustrating. Yes.
Yes, please.
That's okay. That's good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for letting us know. So moving on to, we're going to be looking at more examples, but having a look at simile. As Saba said, simile is simply a way of saying something is like something else, or something is as if something else. You usually use the words like or as, but it's still just an image that you can talk about, that you can explain by unpicking what the words mean in those metaphors or similes. So there used to be an airplane company called Pan American, and Pan Am, as we used to call it. And their slogan of their coffee bureau was, "Good coffee is like friendship, rich and warm and strong." Now, that is an advertising slogan. It is using a simile, and it explains the simile. How is good coffee like friendship? It's rich and warm and strong. So to say that you can use these three words to describe both coffee and friendship. So what is that saying about the coffee?
People
Ben,
love
can you hear me?
coffee.
Well, let's Lucinda go first. Lucinda, do you want to speak?
Hello.
No? It's all right.
Graham, please, what was the question?
Yeah, it says the friendship.
Friendship, rich and warm. Is that one?
Yes, that one. Yeah.
So what was your question? What do you
So
want to?
well, what I'm asking is, good coffee is like friendship, rich and warm and strong. What is that actually saying about the coffee? Because they're trying to sell us coffee. So why? Go on.
Yeah, they are telling us how rich and warm the coffee is
Mhm.
for the friends.
Okay.
Or it's like I'm confused.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. It isn't easy.
It doesn't
Somebody,
disappoint.
I,
it doesn't disappoint. Yeah, yeah, because
Coffee
it
is
gives you.
compared to
It will
this.
never let you down.
Yeah, it'll never let you down.
less,
But what's it going to give you?
It has
less,
value.
less,
Satisfaction or
Health.
Yeah,
pleasure.
yeah. Pleasure,
and less stress.
less stress, lovely things. Yeah, because I suppose the really strong positive word in there is friendship. You could say good coffee is rich and warm and strong. But they've said good coffee is like friendship, rich and warm and strong. Now, is coffee warm in the same way that friendship is warm? Is coffee rich
Yeah.
like friendship is rich?
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah, because it's the same things like a friendship. Yes, is warm and strong. When you drink coffee, even the taste of it is a strong coffee, and it is warm as well.
Yeah. So on one level, it's a good comparison. But on another level, when we talk about friendship being warm and strong, we're talking about emotion, aren't we? We're talking about emotional warmth. We're talking about the strength of a bond between two people.
Yeah, the bond. Yeah, the bond.
Yeah. Now, to actually compare that to a cup of coffee, clearly you drink the cup of coffee, it's gone. It's not like a friendship in many ways that matter. Friendship isn't something you drink and it's gone
Yeah.
and then you leave the coffee shop. It's something that's with you forever, and so they are using the idea of friendship in order to make you feel really good about their coffee. That's a great big positive thing. They may as well just put a great big love heart and say, "Our coffee is love." Because what we're really talking about with richness and warmth and strength of friendship is love. And so they're saying that their coffee is love. But it isn't. As good as it must be, it's only coffee. Yeah. So you've got an exaggeration there. You could say that it's an exaggeration, but it's a clever exaggeration. Let's have a look at the next one, which is a bit odd. It's from from Alan Bennett. And this is a priest giving a sermon. He says, you know, life is rather like opening a tin of sardines. We're all of us looking for the key. Now, his comparison between life and a tin of sardines, or rather the action of opening a tin of sardines. Has anybody opened a tin of sardines recently?
Maybe
Or
not
ever?
recently, ever.
Or ever?
Yes.
Well, I don't even know if they have keys anymore, but they came in little elongated thin cans. These little fish, and they were in oil, and there was a little tab on them, and on the side of the tin, you broke it off. There was a metal key, and you put the key over the tab, and you rolled it, and you actually rolled the tin back. It's just a way of opening the tin. But if the key had fallen off in your shopping basket or in the cupboard, how on earth would you open that tin? And then you'd have to go looking for it. So what he's talking about is, well, life and sardines, you see, it's great. But we're all looking for the key. So trying to get an understanding of what life means, about how life should be, about the richer spiritual qualities of life, it's like having to find the key that will open the tin of sardines. The pleasure of having the sardines and eating them is being compared to all those wonderful things you get out of life if you have a more richer, connected, you know, settled life in the community and all the rest of it. It's a slightly weird way of comparing it. It is frustrating to lose the tin on your sardines, but to compare it to life is again a little bit weird. This time it's not an advert. It's not an advert. He's not trying to sell you sardines, and he's not trying to sell you knowledge about life. What he's trying to suggest is learning to know life is hard and can be frustrating. And we're all in it together. We're all looking for the key to what makes a better life. But because the comparison is silly, you know, life and opening a tin of sardines, it's actually a joke. There's an element here of humor, because of the difference between the idea of the profundity of knowing the spiritual side of life and opening a tin of food like that, especially sardines, because they're smelly and most people can take them or leave them. So the first one maybe used hyperbole, exaggeration for effect, in order to really sell the idea of coffee as being like friendship. The second one may provoke humor. It may be poking fun at the way that people maybe write sermons, especially in middle-class English churches back in the 1960s. This third example, however, is very different. It's from a poem by Margaret Atwood, who wrote The Handmaid's Tale. You fit into me like a hook into an eye. Now, hook and eye is a way of doing up clothes, isn't it? You know, you got a little hook and a little eye, and you put them together. Back of ladies' bras, hook and eye. You know, that's how you join them together. But then she says, a fish hook, an open eye. And suddenly the word hook is no longer so friendly. Because if you imagine a fish hook going into an open eye, that is a really painful, violent image. You fit into me like a hook into an eye suggests that the two people go together. Perfect match. They fit. They hold on to each other like a connection, like a button into a buttonhole. But then she adds on a fish hook, an open eye, and turns it completely around into something horrible, abusive, violent. And it draws your breath up fast when you see the second half of it. This one's an old one, and it's from George Eliot, who's our local great novelist. She came from up the road in Nuneaton and used to live in Coventry. I say she because she was a lady, and she wasn't called George. But here's a line. See if you can work out what she's talking about. He was like a cock who thought the sun had risen to hear him crow. He was like a cock who thought the sun had risen to hear him crow. What is she saying about him?
She compared him to the cock.
Yes, that's the comparison.
Yeah.
But he's not just a
The
cock.
sound of yeah, it's the sound of his maybe his voice or the sound of his the sound.
Well, we're being told
The start of the day.
it is the start of the day, and when the sun comes up, he goes cock-a-doodle and all that. Cocks tend to walk in a rather haughty fashion, don't they, with their heads up, and they command all the chickens around them, all the lady chickens around them. But she's given us what to think. She says he's like a cock who thought the sun had risen to hear him crow. Now, if the cock thinks that, what sort of personality is she ascribing to the man that she's talking about?
He thinks
Very
that everything
proud
is
or arrogant.
Arrogant. I think arrogant's a good one. Arrogant. Yeah. It's if obviously the cock crows when the sun comes up because the sun comes up. But what about if you imagine this bird actually thinks that the sun comes up in the morning just to hear him? Well, he must be the most arrogant and conceited crow in the world. And cocks are often used as images of pride and haughtiness because of the way they look, because of the way they hold their heads, because of the way they strut about like they're little kings. Now, imagine the most conceited and arrogant cock in the world. That's what he was like. That's what that man was like. So she's describing a man, and you can just imagine him, strutting about, looking down on everybody, thinking that the world revolves around him. The sun doesn't come up and the crow responds to the sun. It's the sun has come up to hear the crow. The world is actually just made for whoever it is that she's describing. So it's a picture of arrogance. Yeah. And it's got sound in it, because crow is actually the sound, the noise that he makes, the cock-a-doodle-doo. It's got the strutting male chicken, which everybody knows. And it's got this idea of the sun rising, not just because it's a physical phenomenon that does that every day, whether we're here or not. No, it's suddenly like it's the audience for this cock to crow. The sun is the audience. So it's like saying the world revolves around you, and that's what you think, isn't it?
Yeah, it could be an automated person that does not use his brain.
Yeah, that's right. And it's quite funny, but it's also, you think, yeah, I can just see him now in my mind, but it's more a kind of about the way he thinks about himself and the world around him. But at the same time, I now see him as a little cock, but wearing men's clothes but walking around like that, strutting about. It's funny, and it takes him down a peg, and it reminds me of the song "You're So Vain." I bet you thought this song was about you. You know, it's that kind of taking somebody down by pointing out just how, you know, arrogant and vain they are. I like this bit about about similes, and this is from Shrek, and Shrek is trying to describe what the ogres have depth, that they have emotional levels, and he says, ogres are like onions. They stink? Yes. No. They make you cry? No. You leave them out in the sun, they get all brown and start sprouting little white hairs? No. Layers. Onions have layers. And that does sort of show one of the problems with metaphors and similes, if you're not careful, that actually ogres are like lions because they've got layers. And what he means is that there are emotional layers beneath the surface. But onions are such a strong idea that they have other connections that get in the way of this idea of layers. Onions smell, and so do ogres, let's face it. You know, if you cut onions, it makes you cry. And they do have this ability to go brown and start sprouting little white hairs. And maybe ogres have that as well. And so the frustration that Shrek has is that Donkey doesn't get immediately his connection. And that does show that you have to do a bit of work with them sometimes. Ogres are like onions because they have layers. Would have done it. The basic difference between metaphors and similes is that they both help create a vivid image in the reader's mind. A simile compares two things using the word like or as. So a simile would be, my father grumbles like a bear in the mornings. And you get that image of the bear romping around your father's bedroom and throwing things about. But you're still talking about your father. A metaphor also compares two things, but it does it not using the word like or as. It actually says that the thing you're comparing is identical to the one you're comparing it to. My father is a bear in the morning. And that is a stronger image, but it has got this problem that maybe things get in the way of exactly what is meant. We know that big bears shuffle about and they're probably a little bit, but we're not saying that father comes down the stairs and rips an arm off mother and starts smashing his way through the windows, which you might expect if you had a gigantic bear in the house. You know, the reader and the writer have to cooperate in making the image. So let's just take that out, put another one in, and these are simpler, I think, and I do need you to do a bit of work with them. Try and see if you can get the meanings out. So let's first of all just look at some similes. Really, really simple one. Can you see all these similes? As big as an elephant. Can you see that? All right, somebody explain. If I said something was as big as an elephant, what am I saying about it?
Yes, he looks like an elephant.
He might look like an elephant, but that's not the main thing I'm saying about him.
He would like enlarge something.
It's very large. That's right.
Yeah,
it's large.
something.
Yeah. It's large.
Gargantua.
And powerful. Yeah. Now, additionally, you might also have some fun if you were using this in a piece of writing. You might get some fun in there talking about other elephant items if you wanted to. Okay. But the basic meaning is largeness, enormousness. Yeah. As black as coal.
Something really
dark.
dark.
Really dark. Really black. And why have I used, why do they use the comparison of coal? Why coal?
They are deep dark.
Yeah.
It's very black. Yeah. Coal is one of the blackest things you can think of, isn't it? And it's also something that was very, very common in people's homes. So it might be a little old-fashioned now, because there may be people who've grown up in England and have never seen coal in their lives. I mean, it's possible, you know. But it used to be something everybody lived with, because it was there in your house.
Oh, it means it's pure black from inside and outside.
Yes, pure black. And so it's something you could talk about, the night being as black as coal. You could talk about the basement was as black as coal, and so on.
If you touch the coal, you can get this dirty.
Yeah, on your fingers. Yes, exactly. So my dog barking. As blind as a bat. Somebody.
Bad eyesight.
It's about eyesight, or it's about the ability to see. Yeah, and you could use it both as a simile and a metaphor, because you could talk about metaphorical blindness. That is, people who just don't want to see something. But nevertheless, blindness goes with bats. Why?
Are the bats are blind?
Well, yeah, I'm not entirely sure they are 100% blind, but we tend to
They
think of,
cannot
yeah,
see clearly.
They cannot
yeah,
see during
yeah.
daytime.
They get around by making those
They have-
noises, don't they? They've got sonar. They kind of they squeal and hear the echoes, and yeah. So they're thought of as being as a blind animal. Yeah. Now here's one I think that might cause some problems. And it's a very common one. People say this because it's like an idiom or a cliche, you know. She came in here as bold as brass. What does it mean? Now here you have to explain the terms, don't you? We're no longer in the simple world. What is brass?
Something smooth. Something smooth.
No.
It's a kind of metal thing.
It's a metal. Yeah.
It's like silver, gold, something like that.
It does. It shines like gold. Whoever's got the kiddie, just switch off their mic, please. Thank you very much. So brass is an alloy of, I think, copper and something else. I don't know, but it's shiny gold metal. Yeah, so it's very loud, shiny, and yellow. Looks almost like gold. Now, what does bold mean?
It means he has no limit.
Not afraid of
Brave.
It's very smooth.
Brave.
confident.
I'm not sure I got that.
He says confidence.
Confidence, that's right. To be bold means to be brave. And in this context, it's about confidence. So somebody who just shows no fear, tramples over other people's feelings, just goes straight in there and does whatever, is as bold as brass. Now, why is brass bold? Because it's shiny and it sort of takes all the attention. So, and again, this one is a little bit more difficult than a simple comparison, because in what sense is brass bold? That's almost a metaphorical example. It's almost mixing a metaphor and a simile. The next one is easy, I think. As brave as a lion. Well, we all know that lions are fearless and brave. Yeah. And therefore, it's a very simple, straightforward comparison. As busy as a bee. What element of a bee is being, if I say that the man next door is as busy as a bee, what am I saying about him?
He is a positive active.
He's positive, he's active, he's always working, he's always doing something. And that comes from the idea that
it
bees
might be like a person is a productive person.
Yeah. And it comes from the idea that bees are very hardworking little insects. They're very organized. They're always constantly making something. They're either finding nectar, or they're making honey, or they're making this or that. And the industry of the beehive is very impressive. So if you say somebody is as busy as a bee, you're actually praising them for being highly industrial and industrious. Let's have a look at a metaphor. Oops, I've got loads and loads of these, but let's have a look at a metaphor. You see, another way of comparing somebody to a lion is to say he has the heart of a lion. Now, literally, that would be strange because I don't think you can transplant hearts of lions into people. You know, I think you can put pigs' hearts into people, but I don't think you can put lions' hearts in. So what do we mean when somebody has the heart of a lion?
He's strong
Brave.
like
Brave.
a lion. His heart is like a lion. A lion's
Yeah.
heart. Yeah.
Is it like a lion's heart, or is it?
Or
Or are we saying
heart,
something more?
like his heart is strong as a lion's own.
It's
Yeah.
a big heart, for example, because lion is very big.
Yes.
So it's got big heart, like, you know, very helpful, cooperative.
Yeah.
Like,
But don't we assume that the heart is the center of the emotions of a person? I mean, metaphorically, we say
Fearless.
yes, and it's like if you are chicken-hearted, you heard that one? It means
You
you've
are
got the heart.
brave.
You've got the heart of a chicken. It means you're scared. You're going to run away, aren't you? You know, because chickens, they know to be scared. They have to run away because they're not very strong. The heart of a lion means you're brave and bold and
Yeah, very
strong.
brave.
It's not the fact that a heart pumps blood. You know, obviously a heart only does in a lion what our hearts do in our bodies. It's not actually talking about the heart as an object. It's talking about it as an idea, and the idea itself is metaphorical. That we're saying the man is in some way brave and courageous and fearless. It's not really about the organ. It's about the idea of the emotional core of a person being your heart. I mean, we know we don't experience emotions in our heart, but that's what poets have always said, and so we go with it. One last one. He is the sun of my sky.
Someone very important
Yes.
Mother
Why?
Porter.
who makes
Why?
me happy, right?
Lights up.
Yeah,
Because
yes.
the sun lights up the sky, doesn't it? Makes it blue, makes it beautiful. And whoever the person is you're describing like that, it can be he or a she, is the sun of my life, sun of my sky. It means
I can
they bring. And if the sun wasn't there, I'd be a dark sky, and that would be sad, you know. So you can see how it works negatively and positively. All right, thanks very much. I hope I didn't phase you completely by asking you to do some hard work. And I'm looking forward to maybe you could some of you could send me what you actually did in that time. If you just want to finish it off, that's fine. I was just kind of testing you a bit there. So thanks for coming. I still need most of you to send me your piece of writing about that picture that I sent out last week, and I'll be in touch with you about another bit of homework as well. But for tonight,
one question, sorry.
Yep.
How can we log into Kovlan, please?
Sorry, who's speaking?
Yeah, Bestun is speaking.
Hello.
Yeah, how can we log into Kovlan, because we don't have
Right, I haven't set you up with Kovlan yet. Do you want to get? I'm not going to do a Kovlan for our class. I'm going to let you into the other one, you know, the big one, so you can get into all of the various bits and pieces that you had last year. I'll do that. I will. That's my homework. I'll do that. Okay, I'll send you the logins and everything, and I'll put the recordings. I mean, for this class in a separate section. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you
other?
very much.
You're
everyone.
welcome. Any other questions? Just drop me an email. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Right.
Night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.